Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
Hi everyone, I'm Andre Moreau. We are beginning a new year, and it's a pivotal one for Governor John Bel Edwards. It will involve an election in November, which he hopes will send him into a second term in office. Some of the fiscal wolves that rocked the first half of 2018 seem to be at bay for the moment, but challenges always remain. We kick off 2019 with our special SWI one-on-one interview with the Governor of Louisiana. Governor, let's begin by going back a year. The first half of 2018 seemed to be dominated by trying to take care of the Fiscal Cliff, special sessions, the legislature. Finally, that got resolved and there was time to exhale, it felt like.
It was, and obviously that's a good thing for the state. The people of our state are very well served by how we ended up in June. Of course, it was a little harder than it needed to be. It took a lot longer than it needed to, and in fact, in June, in the third special session of 2018, we actually circled back to a proposal that I had made to members of the legislature, including the speaker, in February before the first special session. But we basically came back to that point, resolved our differences, and as a result, we have stable revenue for the state of Louisiana for the first time in a long time. We have a responsible budget that adequately funds our critical priorities. And we started off this fiscal year with a reduction in taxes of almost $600 million. And the economy continues to do well. So we're in a much better place. And the work that we did in 2018 was incredibly important. It was also very, very difficult to get it done. But at the end of the day, I'm very happy with what we were able to accomplish, the way the economy is responding. And I know that the people of Louisiana feel that they are doing better because they're sharing that with me every single day.
You know, one of the big items that has been part of your agenda is pay raises for teachers, also the justice system and sheriffs and prison reform. Yet with the revenue estimating conference, there's a snag that's been hit there again. So some of that seems to be in jeopardy at the moment, or at least it's a stumbling block?
No, well, I don't think it's going to amount to a stumbling block, and certainly not going to put in jeopardy the teacher pay raise. Let me tell you why it's important, first of all. Only twice in the last 10 years have we increased our investment in K through 12 education. We're not even keeping up with inflation. As a result, we've seen teachers go from where they were being paid at the Southern Regional average 10 years ago to where they're $2,200 below the Southern Regional average. And where that shows up in education performance is that we're unable to attract and retain the very best teachers. We have 35% of our students being taught by teachers who are either not certified or they're not certified in the subjects that they're teaching. It's not in our best interest. I think we ought to give a pay raise to teachers of $1,000 this year, support workers of $500. And I'm actually very encouraged by the amount of support, bipartisan support, Republicans and Democrats alike in both the House and the Senate, who've expressed support for giving this pay raise to teachers. They understand that it's critically important as well. With respect to the revenue estimating conference, the revenue is coming in because the economy is doing better. At the end of the day, we have more people working, making more money, and more businesses more profitable than the economists had originally forecasted. As a result, and by the way, that's a good thing, we have revenue coming in ahead of the forecast. It will eventually be recognized because there's only so long that you can ignore reality. It will be recognized, and then that revenue will be available to fund the teacher pay raise without having to look for revenue somewhere else or to make drastic cuts somewhere else. And the people in the legislature know that, and we're going to work through this too. It's unfortunate because in my view, the Revenue Estimating Conference, which was a good government reform that took revenue estimating out of the hands of the governor, put it in the hands of a panel so that we have economists, one of which works for the legislature, one works for the administration, and a third economist is actually on the panel that votes. And in this case, all three of the economists agree that the economy is doing better. Right. The revenue's coming in ahead of forecast. But it requires a unanimous vote.
Sure
so it's been politicized. I think that's unfortunate, but I think this will take care of itself, and we will acknowledge the reality of the situation and move forward soon after the start of the calendar year.
What is something that you were taught growing up from your parents that you carry with you in your job every day?
I would say compassion. My mother was an emergency room nurse at a charity hospital, and she spent her life taking care of the most vulnerable people in the state of Louisiana, those who were ill but without insurance primarily. And I know how important that was to her, and she came home at night and shared her stories from the day with us. And of course, she is a very faithful Catholic woman as well, and she imparted that to us, as did our dad. He was in law enforcement, and a lot of times you don't equate compassion with law enforcement officers, but he really was, and I would just say it's that sense of compassion and that I believe guides me every day. You got to have equal doses of
toughness and
intelligence,
yes,
and common sense, and compassion. But I do think it requires all three to be effective.
Well, part of the compassion, I think, has been one of the hallmarks of your governorship, because you are an available governor. You seem to be everywhere all the time. Your schedule and managers keep you on pace, but keep you available to talk to people. And I think that's something that people of Louisiana appreciate.
Well, I love the people of Louisiana. When Don and I were out traveling, because I was in the Army, we always knew we were coming back here. I love our state, I love our people, and I enjoy being governor, even through the very difficult challenges that we've had, whether it was the record deficit, the floods, the shootings of the police officers, you name it. I've always enjoyed being governor. I think it's important, and you do have the ability to help people, and that's what this is all about. It is helping people within reason. You can't do everything for everybody, both because it's cost prohibitive and it's improper. But those things that you can and should do, you ought to fight to get them done, and that's what I try to do as governor.
The Trump administration recently had a very significant report on climate change, one which he, by the way, continues to say, I don't necessarily believe it.
Yeah.
But Louisiana, with its coastal master plan and restoration efforts, and hopeful restoration efforts, climate change has really been built into that. Sea level rise.
It's a huge part of what we're doing. And by the way, I have no problem accepting at face value the climate change report. And I think that if you take a position that is contrary to the overwhelming consensus of scientists, you do that at your own peril. And so I do accept it. But you're right. We have the most advanced coastal restoration and protection master plan in the country. It does account for sea level rise, subsidence, coastal erosion. It's the trifecta that's really hitting us all at one time. And of course, the climate change report specifically singled out Louisiana because we're so precariously positioned with respect to what's happening along the coast. If the frequency of severe weather events increases as they are predicting, then Louisiana may see more than our fair share of those rain events. For example, they pointed to the 2016 floods. The flood in March was deemed to be about a 100-year event. The one in August of 16 was deemed to be a 500-year event. So you typically wouldn't see those within just a few months of one another. So I think it's something we need to take seriously. And by the way, this highlights the importance of making sure we do what we can to mitigate against the risk of future flooding and managing watersheds better. That's what we're going to do with the hazard mitigation grant program dollars we've received, as well as the community development block grant program dollars for hazard mitigation. And you're going to see us trying to manage on a watershed basis in Louisiana to get more bang for the buck and position our people to better deal with more frequent severe weather events like we've suffered in the past.
Of course, Louisiana has become and is becoming a national and world leader in coastal restoration efforts, with the Water Campus, for example, and the work that they're doing. But it was a pretty good year for economic development in the state, also, as well as healthcare. So I'm lumping a bunch of stuff together there, but I know these are precious things to you and your administration. Let's talk about some of the economic development, some of the businesses moving in.
Well, first of all, the good news from a very high level, the state's economy, measured by the gross domestic product, is at the highest that it's ever been. Our GDP grew in Louisiana faster than all but 12 other states. And this economic growth is providing opportunity. It's creating jobs. For example, we have well over 2 million people that are employed today in Louisiana. That is near an all-time high. We're doing well. That's why we're running the surplus, by the way, rather than the deficit, even after reducing taxes by $600 million. So the economy is doing better. We're getting investment in Louisiana because companies want to either expand their operations here or create a new operation here to take advantage of the momentum we have here, and also to take advantage of the most productive manufacturing workforce in the country. And that's, well, it is me saying it, but that's also measured by the Census Bureau. And so we've got a lot going for us in Louisiana because we are investing in human talent again. You know, for almost a decade before I became governor, we disinvested. We cut general fund support to higher education more than any other state in the nation. Tried to raise tuition in order to offset that, but that merely priced out of reach for a lot of people, higher education. But by investing in our human talent, making sure that they are knowledgeable, skilled workers, you inspire confidence in people to invest here. Because we have other things going for us. Our geography, you know, being at the mouth of the river and having the coast, the fertile soil, the timber that we have, the hydrocarbons in the ground, the fisheries in the water. What we need to do is invest in our people, and that's what we're doing again. And that's why the Medicaid expansion plays a role in this too, is our workers are more productive, they're healthier. We're improving health outcomes, and it has an economic impact of its own. The Medicaid expansion, for example. We were able to get $1.85 billion in federal money last year to provide health care coverage to about 470,000 working poor people all across the state of Louisiana. The economic impact of that is $3.5 billion, and it's responsible for 19,000 jobs and about $100 million in additional state general fund revenue, because we have sales tax collections that are up, we have income tax collections that are up because of those people who are working and spending. So we're improving health outcomes. We haven't lost a single rural hospital in the state of Louisiana, unlike the vast majority of other states across the South, if you take a look at it. So for all of those reasons, and by the way, we've saved over $300 million state general fund because we expanded Medicaid in Louisiana. When you're a state like Louisiana, plagued as we have been for generations, with more than our fair share of poverty, more than our fair share of poor health outcomes, and one of the lowest rates of insured populations in the country, how can you not take advantage of an opportunity like this so that for never more than 10 cents on the dollar, you can provide health insurance to working poor people who would otherwise never get it? It's just the right thing to do.
You know, you're saying that reminds me a bit of what former Governor Kathleen Blanco spoke of last week when she talked about the cancer that is really taking over her life, though she looks wonderful. But she talked about the cost of poverty and education and how much more expensive it is to not educate your people, and the result is poverty. And that's a downward cycle that Louisiana has stayed in. I thought it was a brilliant speech.
And it's not hypothetical. It's the reality of what we've been experiencing in Louisiana for generations. We just have to do better. And we're in a better position today to tackle challenges like that because we are doing so much better as a state. The economy is growing, more people are working because the revenue is coming in because of that improved economy. We can tackle these other challenges and do better. That's why I'm excited about being governor. I've always been optimistic that tomorrow is going to be better than today, and I've never been more optimistic than I am.
Let's talk about the Industrial Tax Exemption Program. It's something that you had wanted to make adjustments to and wanted to adjust. Are we seeing any improvements, any changes with that, though?
Well, we are, and
Our
first
money's
of all,
coming back into the communities.
it is. I just told you that we're landing the biggest and best economic development projects in our state's history. Many of those have the ITEP available to them, and they're receiving the industrial tax exemptions. But what I wanted to make sure was that local government had a role to play, because the taxes that are at issue that are being exempted are property taxes, none of which come to the state. But for years, it was the state deciding whether an ITEP was going to be offered, and without any consultation, without any control of that issue by the locals. So we have a system now that I think works very well, where the locals, and we're talking about the sheriffs for law enforcement, the school board, and the parish government, and if something's located inside city limits, then the city government as well. But they get to decide whether they are going to have the taxes, the property taxes that come to them, instead exempted in favor of the industrial entity that's moving into their area. They get a vote on that, and I think that's important. And we're seeing that they're having good, productive meetings with people who want to come in and invest in their communities. In more cases than not, the industrial tax exemptions are being granted, but it's now being granted at 80% rather than 100%. So the first year of operation, there will be some tax revenue coming to the local government, because they visit costs on these local governments long before the 10 years expires. And as soon as they go into operation, whether it's public safety, whether it's transportation, whether it's schooling, and so forth. And so I just think we're at the right balance. And by the way, Andre, everything you do as governor is about trying to get the right balance between competing interests. So I think we're in a better place with respect to the Industrial Tax Exemption Program. And this is evidenced by the unparalleled growth that we are having in investment in Louisiana, job creation and so forth, and these economic development projects, but also because the locals now have a seat at the table and a meaningful role to play in this process.
All right, there's one area of growth that people are anxious to really see happen,
Okay.
and that is with infrastructure.
Yes.
One of the things you discussed when you became governor is the placement of a new Capital Region bridge across the Mississippi River. That remains important?
Oh, sure, it
Of
remains
course.
important. I mean, there is no long-term future plan for infrastructure that doesn't involve a new bridge on the river south of what we're calling the new bridge, and the new bridge in Baton Rouge is
It's
about
been
as
there
old
since
as
1968.
Sorry, it's about as old as I am. So we're going to have to do better, but until such time as we have more revenue coming to the state's Transportation Trust Fund, we're going to have to be more creative in the way that we deliver projects. We're doing that. We're engaging in the first private-public partnerships, for example. We are very aggressive about seeking grant funding from the federal government. We are going to bond out some of our federal Transportation Trust Fund dollars for the next 10% for the next 12 years, so that we can deliver some major capacity projects. For example, widening I-10 in Baton Rouge between the bridge and the split, critically important. We're moving forward with a new interchange in Kenner on I-10 to service the billion-dollar airport terminal that's being built. Mm-hmm. And we've got a 4-star nuclear command in Barksdale Air Force Base sitting immediately adjacent to I-20 that doesn't have an interchange, and so we're going to fix that. But at the end of the day, people do need to realize, and I think they do, it's just an unpleasant topic. Our gas tax in Louisiana is 16 cents a gallon. It's been 16 cents a gallon
changed.
for 30 years. We have the 4th or 5th oldest gas tax in the country. And the 16 cents, because of the power of inflation, it's only worth about 7.5 cents today compared to what it was back when it was enacted. So this is a real challenge for us, especially since going forward, starting next year, we won't be generating enough for our state transportation trust fund to provide the non-federal match to bring back our federal tax dollars from the federal transportation trust fund. And so we're going to have to search for a solution. We're going to find one, but we have to really pay attention to this area, because people all over the state of Louisiana have transportation needs, whether it's the replacement of bridges.
And we saw the problems with the Sunshine Bridge.
The Sunshine Bridge, of course, that was
still not quite
it's not
open fully yet, but it will be.
No, but the good news is ahead of schedule, we were able to open half the bridge.
Sure.
So we have one lane open in each direction. But we have bridges that were built during the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration along rural highways, and they get closed often, and they have to be repaired and so forth. But they really need to be replaced, and I think everybody acknowledges this. So it's a very serious thing that we're going to have a discussion about and come up with a solution for. But it's not pleasant to talk about these things, because a lot of people never want to hear that the current effort may not be sufficient, in terms of the revenue that's being generated for this.
You mentioned bipartisanship a bit ago, and that's a very important. It's of course it's important because it's all inclusive. Anything too far to one side or the other side, you have said, is a recipe for trouble at times, and to get things solved. Your relationship with President Trump seems to be a really good relationship, and that's striking a balance that some people are not able to do.
Yeah, well, look, my job is to be the governor for the state of Louisiana, and I think part and parcel of that is having a good working relationship with the president, regardless of party, and the president's administration, cabinet officials, and so forth, as well as members of Congress. So my view about that hasn't changed. It was exactly the same in my first year in office when President Obama was president, and we've had tremendous success working with both administrations, and so I just think that puts us in a better position to serve the people of Louisiana and make sure that we are getting from the federal government the assistance that we need and deserve. So I'm happy with the relationship that I have with the federal government. I think it's good, for example, if the president invites me to come and meet with him to talk about criminal justice reform, as he's deciding what he's going to do at the federal level and what he will support and what he won't. I had a 2-hour meeting with him and to discuss these things, and we now see them moving forward with a vote in the lame duck session on federal criminal justice reform that to a very large degree mirrors what we've already done successfully here in Louisiana. That's the kind of relationship I think that we should all want to have, and parties should never get in the way of that. And here in Louisiana, we still have the ability for bipartisan compromise so that we can move forward on the most pressing problems. And
that's really the only way it's going to happen.
It's the only way it's going to happen. We have Republican majorities in the House and the Senate. I'm a Democrat. And so all the things that we've been able to do, and there are a number of them, very significant things, we were able to do on a bipartisan basis. Otherwise, it just wouldn't have happened. I'm excited that Louisiana, for example, I believe has more of a bipartisan spirit than what we see coming out of Washington. And I would hope that Washington will get back to being more bipartisan so that we can tackle the biggest challenges, because the most durable solutions to our most pressing problems are not found at the extreme, neither the extreme right nor the extreme left. They're towards the middle of the political spectrum, and that's where bipartisan compromise comes into play.
Well, that's going to be important because you've got an election.
Well, we do.
Later this year.
We do.
Correct?
We do. 2019 is an election year here in Louisiana. And Andre, I feel very good about that re-election. First of all, I love serving the people of Louisiana as governor, but I will tell you that when you run for election, you've got to get people to take a chance on you. You convince them that you're the right person at the job at that time based on your experience, based on your ideas, and so forth. But when you run for re-election, you either succeed or not based on whether things are better, whether you've been able to deliver. And if you compare and contrast Louisiana today with where we were 3 years ago, there is no doubt we are better off, and we have delivered on the things that we have promised and on the efforts that we've undertaken since I've been in office. That's why I feel really good about the election in 2019.
You've always had a message for the people of Louisiana. What is one thing that you would leave us with right now?
Well, I want the people of Louisiana to be as excited about our state as I am. I want them to be as optimistic about the future that we're going to have for our children and grandchildren. We want them to be successful. We want them to have a great education, get a wonderful job, have a rewarding career. but we want them to be able to do it right here in Louisiana.
And stay here.
And stay here. And we are on a path that will allow for that today to a greater degree than we have seen in a very, very long time. And so let's stay on that path together. And I would just invite them to pray for our country, pray for our state, for leaders at all levels, that we will seek common ground and compromise and fashion solutions that will really work and that will be durable, and that 2019 will be the very best year ever for them and their families, and certainly for the state of Louisiana.
Governor, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Andre.
It's always great to talk
Yes, sir.
with you.
Thank you.
Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.